37-year-old boss babe freezes her eggs, says she will never depend on a man. There she is. Okay, there she is. We got more photos coming, don't you worry. This is from the New York Post, but it was interesting. It was like everywhere. Like when you put the title of this in to Google, there were like a million articles. A lot of the Murdoch outlets seemed to just, it was like Daily Mail everywhere. This story. There's a lot of women that freeze their eggs. Why did this one make headlines? Well, let's see. And we're going to read through some of this together. This career-driven feminist has frozen her eggs so she can have a baby on her own terms, it says, saying she doesn't need a man to make all of her dreams come true. She's 37 years old. She's a real estate magnate. She's been featured in Forbes. She says she's never depended on a man for anything. She spent the last 2 decades focusing on her work, meaning marriage and babies were not a priority. We're going to read through some of this together. It's important. She recently realized that most of her friends were married and having children, and her desire to become a mom was awakened too. Now, this is what she says. I guess my mantra has always been female empowerment and women succeeding in business. Maybe that's why I'm 37, not married and settled, because I focused all my time on getting myself established. So at least there's some degree of self-awareness there, right? I was like, oh, maybe this is headed in a good direction. She recognizes, not so much. During the pandemic, and this is something that happened a lot during the pandemic. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what happened to women during the pandemic. During the pandemic, she recalled thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm in my late 30s. So I was so focused on being successful and independent that it never dawned on me that the biological clock is ticking. Why didn't it dawn on you, doll? Because you ate all the talking points. Because someone told you that, oh, there's plenty of time, honey. Don't worry about it. Focus on your career. Don't worry. You got all the time in the world. And then suddenly you woke up in the midst of the pandemic alone, quarantined in your house, and you were looking around like, my real estate job isn't there to keep me warm at night. What did I do wrong? That's what happened. She says, like many other women, she froze her eggs during the pandemic and now has the ambitious aim of getting pregnant by 39 with or without a partner in her life. Okay? She's doing this with or without a man. So let's just break that down before I continue. She froze her eggs during the pandemic. You can click on articles and you can go through and find this. There's one actually that links from this article in the New York Post of all of these women during the pandemic who panicked and froze their eggs. Now, some of that is because some of them panicked because of the coronavirus. And they thought somehow the coronavirus was going to compromise their fertility. They weren't sure what was going on there. Some of them panicked after the vaccine because they thought their fertility was going to be compromised by the vaccine. But some of them panicked because they were alone. There they were sitting in their house and everyone around them had, a family, kids, all that stuff. And sorry, I don't want to cough in your face. So sometimes you got to take the water. Everyone around them had somebody there. And they were sitting there all by themselves, all alone. And they started to have time to think about what the next 5 years were going to look like, what the next 10 years were going to look like, what the next 15 years were going to look like. And they were like, oh my gosh, how did I get to 37? What did I do wrong? It happened a lot. And think about it. If you were holed up during the pandemic in your house and you had your kids and you had, grandma and grandpa and you had your husband, for a while you were just hanging tight. You were like, I'm all right, right? You were good. You went outside, you did this and that. But think about that. Woman, 37, spent her whole life focused on career. Pandemic hits, she's alone in that house. A lot of time to think. A lot of them ran and froze their eggs. Okay, panicked. They didn't know how long it was going to go on. Think about it. Pandemic lasts 2 years and you're 39. All of a sudden, all the panic set in. What I'm here to do is try to get women to wake up before the panic sets in. Wake up before that panic. Okay, before there's some pandemic, God knows what's coming our way from the WEF. But, wake up and realize that you don't have all the time in the world. It's just a biological reality. You don't have all the time in the world. And if you spend all that time on your career, you very well may wake up one day and feel alone and panicked and anxiety ridden and looking back on your past and say, what have I been doing for all this time? Because that career is not, I promise you ladies, that career is not going to keep you warm at night, especially when all your friends have kids, when all your friends have their families, their husbands, everything's intact and you're sitting there by yourself. You're going to be miserable. Okay, let's keep reading. Although she would prefer for her child to have a great father, the businesswoman says she has never been constrained by convention and is not opposed to being a single mama. I was never one of those girls who couldn't wait to get married, settle down, and have kids, she said. I stray from the societal norms they place on us and would rather have a loyal, healthy partnership. I couldn't wait to get my career established. I couldn't wait to have my own company. That was my driving force. She believes her background played a big role, and it goes on and on and on. And she does acknowledge that she was on autopilot for a while. Now, again, though, the way they talk about men, she goes on to say, too, that, you know, she won't have a problem paying for everything because she's got all this money. So the implication there is, well, I'll be fine if I don't have a man. I'll be able to pay for everything. I'm this real estate mogul. I have all the money in the world. Again, this reduces men to a wallet again. It reduces them to, oh, well, if I don't need a guy for the cash, I don't need him at all. You may want to think about what happens when you bring a child into the world and that child doesn't have a father. We have talked on this show time and again about the statistics when it comes to fatherless homes. That is not something to strive for. Now, is that something that happens in, you know, horrific circumstances? I mean, you have bad circumstances where a father will pass away. You know, you have unfortunate circumstances where a woman will be, let's say a woman is left, you know, a man falls into drugs, alcohol, whatever it may be. These things do happen. It's sad, it's unfortunate. In those positions, those women make the best of those circumstances that they can oftentimes. But you don't strive for a fatherless home. Can you imagine sitting there and saying, well, I have a lot of money now. I prioritize my career. I froze my eggs. And I don't need a man because I don't need it for the money. And now you bring a child into this world who doesn't have a father figure in the home, and somehow you think that that kid's not missing something? That's ignorant. And not to mention also a little bit selfish. A little bit selfish. You did your thing. You went through your life. You prioritized you, me. Now you want to have a kid. You waited a long time. You've deprioritized men. You know, you're pushing your I don't need a man, which probably repels a lot of guys. And that kid doesn't get to have a father in the home because you don't deem it important, because you don't need his wallet. And hence you think that he will have minimal positive effect. Not good. Not a good dynamic to bring a child up in. And very selfish. So again, the reason I brought this up is because there's so many women who, what happens is, you know, they hit this age and they get defensive about the choices that they've made. It's hard to get to a certain point and sit back and say, did I do something wrong here? Or could I have done something better? Did I make the best decisions? Did I miss something? It's very hard to do that for everyone. Self-reflection is not easy. Admission of wrong is not easy. It's much easier for these people to justify it, get to that point to, oh, yeah, I did everything right. Now I got all this money. Who cares? I don't need a man. Take to the grave, you know, blah, 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 blah. Also, let me just say, can we pull up, Deli? Can you just pull up that article again? I just want to show the girl. By the way, this is not to be petty. This is not to be petty, but something's going on here with this girl because she is cartoonish in many respects. And you can scroll down the lips, you know, there's a lot of surgery. There's a lot of surgery that's gone on here. Now, I'm not going to judge anyone in the sense of you could do whatever you want. I'm a freedom lover. You get all the surgery you want. You could do all this and that. But are we to accept that she dresses like this for herself? No. She's been trying to attract male attention for a really long time. You don't do all this, all the surgeries, all dressing up, half naked, going out. I know there's people that say, no, I got it for myself. Yeah, okay, honey. Sure you did. She's been trying to attract male attention for a very long time. Something's wrong here. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what's going on, but it does feel a little bit like she got to a certain age and this child feels like it's going to be an ornament in her life in some way. It just doesn't feel like an authentic, I want to start a family. It's very like, oh, this is something I haven't done. I need to add this to my checklist. Check. And there's something that's not authentic about this whole story because you can't tell me that this woman, you just can't. You can't tell me this woman hasn't been trying to attract men. Of course she has. You can't tell me that this woman is authentic in her I don't need a man. If you don't need a man, why are you trying to attract men so hard? It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, the whole thing. And also, there's something going on. All I'm going to say is if you're doing the cartoonish stuff, you know, the lips, the fish lips, and everything is just being blown up, you know, filled and like to the point where it looks like you could pop everything, you know, like a balloon. I mean, something's just going on there is all I'm going to say. Do what you want. I don't care if you transform yourself into a cat, you know, with plastic surgery, but let's all just acknowledge that something's off there if that's happening. Something's just a little off about this story is all I'm saying. There's a lot of women out there like this. If you want to watch the full episode, you're going to click right here. And if you want to ask me a question one-on-one, you want to do a one-on-one FaceTime with a group of your friends, whatever you want, you need to download Connect right now. Click right here and let's get talking.